It's 3:14 a.m. when the old CCTV monitor inside the ranger station flickers to life. Ranger David Holt, 32, sits half asleep in the glow of a single desk lamp. His uniform shirt sticks to his back from the damp air. A cup of black coffee trembles beside his hand as a shape moves across the camera feed. Slow, deliberate, and unmistakably human-sized. But no one should be outside. Not at this hour. He rewinds the tape, thinking it's a glitch, but the shape is still there, closer this time, standing just beyond the floodlight, unmoving. It's like the darkness itself has a spine. What would you do? The voice in his head whispers, if the camera caught something watching you back. David squints at the screen. The pixels ripple, and for a second, he swears he sees a face. His own, staring from the fog. Then the power hums, the lights die, and only the red rec light burns through the black. Outside, the wind stops. The forest holds its breath. Morning breaks with a wet chill that clings to the ranger station. Emily Reese, 28, steps from her rusted sedan and looks around at the endless green. She's smiling for now. Her red parka pops against the mist, her blonde hair tied loosely beneath a beanie. Eyes bright and naive. She's the kind of person who still believes every forest holds stories worth hearing. Chief Ranger Mark Douglas, 54, waits by the door, cigarette smoldering between two weathered fingers. His uniform jacket is faded, beard graying, and his stare steady in a way that feels heavy. First rule out here, he says, voice rough. Don't check the cameras after midnight. Emily laughs softly, thinking it's a joke. David, 32, still shaken from the night before, glances up from his mug, but says nothing. His silence lingers. Outside, the trees sway like they're whispering, or listening. By dusk, the park is too quiet. Emily walks the perimeter trail, notebook in hand, recording bird calls that never come. The silence hums instead, a low vibration in her chest. She looks up and sees a dark gap between two pines that shouldn't exist, like a door left open. Back at the station, David hears a sound through the wall. A faint knocking, 3 short taps. He calls out for Emily, but her radio crackles only with static. Mark sits by the heater, cigarette glowing in the dim light. Shall hear things, Mark says, exhaling smoke. Everyone does their first week. David looks out the window toward the tree line. He swears he sees someone standing there, tall, motionless, face hidden by fog. When he blinks, it's gone. After sunset, the fog turns thick enough to blur the windows. Emily, curious, finds the security tape stacked beside the radio console. She inserts one labeled camera 3:14 a.m. and hits play. The footage shows David at his desk from the previous night, head bowed over coffee. Then movement, something standing behind him, right where the window should be. Her breath catches. The figure has no features, but the outline looks disturbingly familiar. Her own height, her own build. She rewinds, plays again. Same thing. David walks in, startled to see her watching. What are you doing? Emily points at the monitor. Who was behind you last night? David's face drains. I was alone, he whispers. The power stutters around midnight. Every light flickers once, twice, then dies. Only the monitors glow faintly with residual charge. David rushes to the breaker. Emily grips her flashlight, pulse racing. The beam catches Mark Douglas, 54, in the doorway. Motionless, face unreadable in half shadow. The cameras stay on, he mutters, even when the power goes. A red light blinks in the corner of the ceiling. One camera turns by itself, the motor whirring softly. Emily looks straight into the lens, its glass eye fixed back at her. The forest outside has gone utterly still. Then, from the feed, comes the sound of breathing. Not human. Slow, wet, close. Sleep doesn't come easily to Emily Reese, 28. When it finally does, it brings static. In her dream, she stands in the forest, barefoot, wearing her ranger shirt half-buttoned, breath forming clouds that hang too long in the air. The trees hum faintly, pulsing with white noise. Through the haze, she sees faces, hundreds of them, carved into the bark, each shifting slightly like they're whispering her name. She wakes to find the radio hissing softly beside her bunk. The voice isn't static anymore. It's saying something under its breath, too low to catch, too human to ignore. From across the dark room, David Holt, 32, sits upright on his cot, staring at the same radio. His eyes are already open. Over black coffee the next morning, Chief Ranger Mark Douglas, 54, decides it's time to explain. His tone is calm, but there's something ancient behind it. The way old men talk about ghosts they've met more than once. They called it the one who watches, he says. Old stories from the tribes before this became a park. Said it lived where light couldn't stay. If you pointed a lens into the dark, it'd look back. Emily, frowning, asks, "You believe that?" Mark smiles faintly. "I've seen the cameras move on their own." David, unshaven, rubs his eyes. "That's just interference." Mark leans forward, voice lowering. "Then, why does it only happen at 3:14? When David reviews the camera tapes again, something's wrong. The timestamp reads 3:14 a.m., but the footage isn't what he saw before. The figure in the fog moves differently now, slower, as if aware it's being watched. And this time it turns its head toward the lens. He freezes the frame. The outline sharpens. Jawline, cheekbones, hair. It's him, David Holt, standing outside in the fog. But he knows he was inside that night. His breath shakes as Emily steps closer, her reflection joining his in the monitor. "Maybe the tape is re-recording itself," she says. David whispers. "Or maybe it's recording what's coming." At 3:13 a.m., the main monitor activates on its own. The camera feed from outside the ranger station pans slowly to the left. No one touches the controls. Emily stands frozen behind David, watching the image shift. Pine trees sliding across the frame until it stops at the window where they stand. Now the camera is pointing directly at them. For several seconds, the screen shows nothing but their faces, tiny and trembling in the distance. Then the feed flickers, and a third shape appears between them. Tall, dark, faceless, standing closer to the lens than either of them ever were. Mark's voice echoes from the hall. "Turn it off!" Emily can't stand not knowing. She grabs her flashlight and steps into the fog, muttering about proving it's just a camera glitch. David shouts after her, voice echoing through the trees, but the fog swallows sound. Through the window, Mark Douglas watches silently, cigarette trembling in his hand. The security feed shows her flashlight beam cutting through the mist, until it suddenly jerks, spins, and drops. The camera zooms slightly, unprompted, showing only swirling white vapor. Then for half a second, there's movement, a hand, pale and reaching, dragged backward into the dark. The feed keeps rolling, but Emily doesn't return. Dawn creeps pale and silent across the forest. David Holt, 32, hasn't slept. The radio has been dead for hours. He steps outside into the fog, calling Emily's name until his voice breaks. Every echo sounds like someone else repeating him from far away. By noon, a small search team arrives from the nearest ranger outpost. Their voices muted, their expressions uncertain. Chief Mark Douglas, 54, directs them wordlessly, cigarette unlit between his fingers. He doesn't believe they'll find her. As they disappear into the mist, David remains behind, staring at the dark tree line. The camera above the door still blinks red. He wonders if it saw where she went, or if it's still watching him instead. Hours later, David searches Emily's locker, desperate for anything. Beneath spare uniforms and a thermos, he finds her field notebook. The last page stops him cold. It isn't notes or sketches of trees anymore. It's a charcoal smear of hands pressed against glass. Dozens of them, fingers long and uneven. In the corner, she's written a single line. They're drawn to reflection. He closes the book, his pulse rising. In the reflection of the metal locker door, for a heartbeat, he swears he sees her behind him, pale, eyes wide, mouth moving in silence. When he turns, only the empty room breathes. That night, David can't stop himself. He plays the last recording from camera 3. It shows Emily walking into the fog. Slow, steady, confident. The image freezes at the edge of visibility. Then the fog ripples like water, and something darker moves just beyond it. Not a shape, more like the absence of one. The air around the monitor grows heavy. The sound distorts. For a split second, a blurred face presses against the inside of the lens, as though trying to get out. The monitor hums. Then everything goes black. David whispers to himself. It's still recording. Chief Mark Douglas bursts into the room when he hears the tape running. His face is drawn, beard damp with sweat. Without speaking, he ejects the cassette and snaps it in two. David recoils. Why would you do that? Mark's voice is low, cracked, because the last ranger who watched it never left this place. He opens a metal drawer and reveals a stack of similar tapes, all labeled, all cracked cleanly down the center. We don't keep evidence here, son, he says. We keep warnings. David looks down at the pieces of tape. He's already decided he'll find a way to watch again. That night, when Mark finally sleeps, David returns to the storage room. He moves quietly, guided by the faint hum of electricity in the walls. He knows one of the tapes survived, the one he hid earlier. He retrieves it from behind a drawer, labeled only with the number 7. For a moment he hesitates, the cool plastic against his palm. The red light above the door flickers once, as if acknowledging. He whispers to the empty room, just one more look. Then he presses play. Outside, the forest exhales. The old tape player hums as David Holt, 32, presses play. The image rolls with faint distortion, snow rippling across the screen. It's the same footage from before. The empty ranger station, the fog outside. But now there's something new. He sees himself sitting at the desk, watching this same tape. The camera seems to be filming from somewhere behind him, but he's alone. The recorded David turns toward the lens and smiles faintly, a gesture that never happened. David backs away, heart hammering, eyes locked on the screen. The recorded version leans closer, whispering something soundless. The real David whispers too before realizing his own words are matching the tape. And then, both versions blink at the same time. When Mark Douglas, 54, enters the control room later, he finds David sitting motionless, staring at a blank screen. David's hands shake slightly on the desk. Mark's tone is low, cautious. You watched it, didn't you? David doesn't look up. It's not showing what happened. It's showing what's next. Mark takes a step back, the floorboard creaking. You're starting to sound like them, he mutters. David finally meets his eyes. Then maybe they were right. The lights flicker. Both men glance toward the monitor as it flares briefly to life. Not showing footage, but a live image of them standing there, right now. That night, every reflective surface seems alive. The station windows shimmer faintly, even when no light hits them. David catches glimpses of movement, his own shape walking past, though he hasn't moved. He covers the mirrors, smudges the window glass with dirt, but it doesn't matter. When he looks into the black of the turned-off monitor, there's still something inside it, standing just behind him. He hears Emily's voice, faint like breath against his ear. Don't look at it. He spins around. Nothing. Only the red recording light pulsing in the dark, like a heartbeat refusing to stop. When the last light in the station dies, the forest begins to hum. Not wind, not animals. A low mechanical vibration that shakes through the floorboards. David steps outside, flashlight off. Breath visible in the cold. The trees seem to pulse with faint internal light, like static traveling through living wood. He lifts his head and hears whispers merging into the hum. Words almost human. Record, rewind, play. From the tree line, fog seeps closer, and for the first time, David feels the rhythm of the hum inside his chest, like his heartbeat isn't his anymore. By dawn, David has decided. He destroys the cameras, one by one. Glass shatters, cords spark, metal crunches under his boot. The silence that follows feels almost holy. But when he steps back inside, one monitor still glows faintly. He hadn't even realized it was plugged in. The feed shows the outside of the station. Fog thick as milk. Trees still humming. Then from behind the lens, a faint whisper. You can't stop what watches itself. David's reflection flickers on the screen. The monitor blinks once, then returns to static. Yet the faint red recording light above it burns steady. It never turned off. Oh, it happens at 3:14 a.m. Again. Every object in the ranger station shifts by the smallest fraction, like the world itself inhaled and held its breath. The second hand on David's wristwatch trembles, then repeats the same tick twice. Outside, the fog rolls backward, like a film in reverse. The broken cameras reassemble themselves on the walls, cords knitting together silently. When David blinks, the monitors flicker to life, each showing the same looping image. The ranger station still untouched, waiting. He checks the date. It's yesterday again. He whispers to the empty air. It's starting over. From the woods, the hum rises, steady, mechanical, alive. David realizes the pattern. Every night, the same second repeats. The world resets, but he remembers. On the screen, his movements replay, lifting his hand, dropping his coffee, breathing. All occurring twice. He stares at the machine. The tape is rewinding by itself. No motor hums, no gears move. Yet the reels spin backwards smoothly. The image of himself walks in reverse. Eyes closing, mouth forming silent words. That only makes sense when played backward. It's already over. He yanks the tape free, but it doesn't stop. The screen continues, rolling, time unspooling on its own. The next night, the tape changes again. Emily appears, not in the fog this time, but inside the room, standing behind him in the footage. Her parka drips faint mist, hair hanging limp, eyes too wide, unblinking. She's mouthing something, her face expressionless but her body trembling slightly. David freezes. The camera view tilts, framing only her lips. He rewinds, plays, rewinds again. The same phrase each time. David, stop recording. The feed distorts, the image tearing across the screen like wet paper. He whispers her name into the static, and somewhere inside the hum, a voice answers, "You didn't stop." The storm hits without warning. The wind shakes the wooden walls, rain slicing through the fog like static. Come alive. Mark Douglas, 54, bursts into the room shouting over the wind, "We have to shut it down." David looks up from the screen. Emily's face still flickering on it, but before he can answer, a flash of light fills the room. The monitors go white, humming louder than thunder. When the static clears, Mark is gone. His cigarette smolders on the floor, the ember fading slow. David stands alone, the echo of Mark's voice still trembling in the air like it's trapped in replay. By the following night, David gives up trying to fix anything. He positions the last working camera to face the woods, sits before it, and waits. The forest hums softly, the fog pulsing with invisible life. He speaks quietly into the microphone. "If anyone finds this, don't rewind. Just let it end." The wind stops. The fog parts for a moment, revealing only depthless black beyond the first row of trees. The red recording light burns steady, unblinking. David closes his eyes and exhales. At exactly 3:14 a.m., the camera lens dilates as if it's breathing in. The forest blinks. David Holt, 32, wakes to the sound of his own breathing, except it's coming from the monitor, not his chest. On screen, he's asleep in the cot, peaceful, unmoving, but is awake, standing here, watching. The tape timestamp reads 3:14 a.m. again. He checks the clock. It's exactly the same. He reaches to turn off the feed, but his reflection in the monitor moves a second too late. The recorded version opens its eyes. David stumbles backward, pulse hammering. The voice that comes from the speaker isn't his own anymore. It's Emily's, whispering gently, "It's your turn now." The next recording shows something worse. The footage plays before it's even filmed. David sitting at his desk, body slumped forward, lifeless. The timestamp is tomorrow. He rewinds. But the scene always ends the same. The camera pans toward his still figure, then turns to face the window. Outside, the fog moves with rhythmic calm, like breathing. He whispers, "It's showing me what's coming." For the first time, the monitor answers in his own voice. "You already know." Every reflective surface in the station begins to hum in unison. The metal desk, the window glass, even the coffee surface. David approaches the window. His reflection stands perfectly still, lips moving silently. He touches the glass. It's cold, but soft beneath his palm, like thin fabric stretched over water. The reflection finally speaks aloud, but the voice comes from behind him. He turns, and for one instant, sees himself standing there. Same face, same clothes, same trembling breath. The copy smiles faintly before vanishing with a quiet burst of static. David finally accepts it. The recordings aren't memories, they're instructions. He finds a blank tape, inserts it, and hits record. His hands tremble, voice low and steady. "My name is David Holt, Ranger at Black Pines." If you're watching this, you've already seen what happens. Don't rewind. Don't play it twice. Behind him, the static hums louder, pressing against the air like a heartbeat. The fog outside the window shifts, forming vague shapes that echo his movements. He looks back once, eyes full of guilt and resolve, and whispers, "End it." When the search team finds the ranger station days later, everything is silent. The logs stop at 3:14 a.m. The tape still runs, looped endlessly, showing David sitting at the desk, whispering to the camera, until static swallows him whole. The team leader ejects the tape and stares at it. The label reads nothing. He sets it aside and turns to leave, but the monitor flickers to life behind him. On screen, the team stands exactly as they are now, frozen in place. Then one by one, they begin to vanish, replaced by fog. 3 days later, the park investigation team catalogs the abandoned ranger station. The generator is cold, coffee still half full, papers scattered as if someone left mid-sentence. The lead investigator, Officer Helen Ward, 38, watches her partner slide a labeled tape into a plastic bag. No date. The moment they step near the control desk, every monitor flickers alive. The power isn't connected. The image that fills the screens shows them not past, not delayed, but perfectly live. Helen whispers, "Who's filming this?" Her own voice echoes back through the speakers. "You are." Curiosity outweighs caution. Helen threads the mysterious tape into the player. The footage is shaky, color-drained, sound warped by age. It shows their team entering the station moments ago. Then the camera pans toward Helen herself, zooming slowly, as though the lens knows her name. Her heartbeat hammers in the silence. "Is this live?" she asks. On the tape, her recorded self leans closer to the camera, whispering, Don't rewind. The real Helen steps back, breath trembling. The tape keeps playing, even though no one touches it. As the sun drops, the static deepens into rhythm, slow, pulsing, like the forest itself breathing through the monitors. The floor vibrates. The pine trees outside sway, not from wind, but in perfect unison. Helen looks out the window. The fog moves like a living tide, rolling toward the station. Her voice shakes. It's sensing. From the speakers, a low voice answers, layering male and female tones at once. Record, repeat, repeat, remember. The trees bend closer, branches scraping the glass with deliberate rhythm. 3 taps, a pattern David once heard. When the static peaks, Ryan Cole, 41, leans toward the main monitor. It's just feedback, he mutters, pressing his palm against the screen. The glass ripples under his touch like liquid. Helen shouts, "Don't! Too late!" The reflection of his face smiles back an instant before the rest of him vanishes, pulled soundlessly into the light. The monitor steadies, showing only fog. Helen falls to her knees, the hum fading to a heartbeat's silence. From the screen, Ryan's voice whispers one last time, "We're still recording." By nightfall, only Helen remains. The cameras hum without power, their red lights blinking in perfect rhythm with her heartbeat. She raises the recorder one last time and whispers, "Who's watching?" The forest outside answers, a single pulse of light through the fog, like an eye opening. The monitors flicker, every frame showing endless rows of trees staring back. Her voice dissolves in the hiss of static. The recording continues long after the station empties. The final image, a red dot glowing in the fog, steady, alive, eternal. The forest watches itself.